That day started like any ordinary warm afternoon, the kind where sunlight settles softly on every surface and makes the world feel a little slower, a little quieter, and honestly, a little too perfect to suspect anything unusual might be waiting around the corner. My husband had left early for work, rushing through breakfast as always, reminding me that his old college friend Mark was dropping by later to pick up some tools he had lent him weeks ago. I didn't think much of it. Met Mark a handful of times at gatherings and dinners, always polite, always friendly, the kind of person who blended easily into a room without ever standing out too much. Around noon, the heat began to rise, and I decided to spend a little time by the pool, hoping the water and the quiet would help me unwind from the long week I'd had. I changed into something comfortable and stepped outside, the air thick with the scent of summer and the faint hum of distant traffic drifting lazily across the neighborhood. The pool shimmered like a giant piece of glass, catching every ray of sunlight, and for a moment I felt like the world had paused just for me. I lay back on the lounge chair, eyes half open, just letting myself drift. That's when I heard the gate click. At first I thought it might be the wind, or maybe a delivery guy leaving a package at the front door, but when I sat up and looked toward the backyard entrance, I saw Mark standing there, shielding his eyes from the sun, with one hand, an easy smile on his face, as if he had been searching for me and finally found exactly where he expected me to be. "Hey," he said casually, "your husband told me I could come by. Hope I'm not interrupting." I told him I was just relaxing and he could grab the tools from the shed, but instead of heading there, he walked closer to the pool, stopping at the edge and looking down at the water like he had all the time in the world. Something in his posture felt different that day, more intentional, as if he wasn't just here for tools. And I couldn't quite read what was behind the way he kept glancing toward me, then toward the water. He laughed lightly and said he didn't expect me to be outside, that he thought I'd be inside working or busy with something. And there was something in his tone that made the moment feel strangely significant, even though nothing had really happened yet. The sunlight hit his face at an angle that made him look almost unfamiliar, like someone I didn't quite know. He asked if he could sit for a bit before grabbing the tools. "Just a minute," he said, and I nodded because it felt rude not to. But as he sat on the chair beside me, the air shifted in a way I could feel but not describe. It wasn't uncomfortable exactly, just unexpected. We talked about simple things, at first his work, my week, the heat of the day, but there was this weird tension beneath every word, like something unspoken was hovering between us, even though neither of us acknowledged it. He told me he used to spend summers like this when he was younger, sitting by the pool for hours, letting the day drift without worrying about anything. And as he spoke, his voice softened in a way that made the moment feel strangely personal. I remember thinking it was odd how quiet the world felt around us. Even the birds seemed to pause just long enough for me to notice. I stood up to grab a glass of water from the outdoor table, and for a moment, I felt his eyes follow me, not in a threatening way, not in a way that made me feel unsafe, just noticeably. It was the kind of moment you register without wanting to admit you registered it. The kind that sits in the back of your mind and makes you wonder if you imagined it. When I handed him a glass, he thanked me with a smile that lingered a fraction of a second too long, and that's when everything shifted. Suddenly, he laughed at himself, shaking his head, and said my husband was lucky to have someone who made their home feel this peaceful. Something about the sincerity in his voice caught me off guard. I didn't know what to say, so I just smiled and looked away, pretending to notice something in the water. That's when my phone buzzed on the table. It was my husband texting that he'd be home later than expected. I told Mark automatically, and for some reason, he grew quiet for a moment before nodding. Nothing he did was wrong, nothing he said crossed any line, but the silence held something I couldn't quite interpret. After another quiet minute, he stood, finally breaking whatever strange spell the moment had wrapped itself in, and said he'd better grab the tools and head out. I watched him walk to the shed, his footsteps steady, his demeanor back to normal, as if everything that happened or didn't happen was just a trick of the sun and the stillness of the afternoon. When he returned, tools in hand, he thanked me again for the water and for letting him stay a bit. And then he left, the gate clicking shut behind him just as softly as it had opened. I sat back down, staring at the pool and trying to understand why such an ordinary moment felt so strangely unforgettable, and why I kept replaying the way he'd looked at me, or the pause in his voice, or the quiet that seemed to follow us both around the yard. Nothing dramatic had happened, nothing worth whispering about. But somehow the entire afternoon had left me with the unsettling feeling that something almost happened, something that hovered at the edge of possibility, and then slipped quietly back into the space between polite smiles and harmless conversation. And even now, I still wonder why that moment by the pool stayed with me long after the day ended, long after the sunlight faded, and long after Mark walked away, as if it had all been just another ordinary visit.